Yeah, so first, a very warm welcome, and I'm very happy to see you all here. I'm in touch with Mavis Mtandeki at the moment. We tried earlier today to get the Zoom working, but we're still struggling to get her on here. So I hope during or in the middle of our conversation, she'll be able to join us here online. Sometimes it's not that easy, to get into the Zoom from Tambo Village, where she's based at the moment, and we were just speaking earlier today. And so, Angela, I'm very excited to have you here, and want to open the floor to you right now.
Thank you very much, Marie. Are there questions that you want to start with, Marie, so I know where to go with while we're waiting for Mavis?
Yeah, so I was thinking, because we took the book Sites of Struggle, The History of the Tambo Village Women, which is now available in different countries, as you can see, and it's been brought to many libraries as well. So I wanted to start by asking you how you and Mavis Mtandeki met. Where did you meet? What was your relationship like? Which circumstances were around you?
Well, I'd been working in what we call the townships in Cape Town. What happened during apartheid was the near Table Mountain was reserved for white people. Then a bit further out was reserved for brown people. And then a bit further out was reserved for Black people. It was cunningly devised by our old white nationalist government. And the thinking was, if the Black people rose up against white people, they would first have to go through the brown people to get to the white. So the whole way of thinking was protection for white people. But as a Christian, I realized the Bible said that we had to stand against injustice. And so I started going into the townships in the 1980s to see what could be done to make friends and so on. And in the process of being in the townships, because I didn't even understand what apartheid was or what the government was actually doing, because we were brainwashed as all different race groups, really. And so we were banned from really having people of color as friends, and especially Black friends and so on. And so I suppose I broke the law by going into the townships, and it was the most terrible time of security police and detention without trial and so on. And so I went into the townships to make friends. And I'd been in a township called Khayelitsha for quite a number of years when I decided to go to Gugulethu, and there found Tambo. It was called Tambo Square then, a square piece of ground with about 650 families living there. It was a very militant community of people who very virulently fought against apartheid in a very real way. And so it was in 1992, after Tata Nelson Mandela was released, that I went into Tambo Square. And the name Tambo is named after Oliver Tambo, who was the head of the ANC, the African National Congress at that time. And so I found a lovely Black pastor who was willing to take me into Tambo Square and introduce me to people. What I never realized is that they never allowed white people in there, because we were the oppressors, and fair enough. But my pastor friend took me in, and in the middle, now we're talking about shacks. It's not brick houses, it is shacks, corrugated iron shacks with black plastic on the roofs and so on, bucket system toilets, terrible conditions. But in the middle of Tambo Square was this one prefab building, which was the kind of preschool, because the mamas went off to clean people's houses and so on. Their children were looked after. A few women who just helped the community. And Mavis Mtandeki was one of those. And so I was introduced to Mavis that day, and to another mama called Lydia, and so on. And that's how we became friends. So Mavis was giving up her time to look after other people's children. And that's how we became friends.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. Maybe it's also interesting for all of those who don't know Mavis Mtandeki's biography much more, that she had worked as a domestic worker for many years prior to taking a media course and becoming a photographer. And all during that time, Mavis was working in the community in Tambo Square. Can you tell us a bit about how this community was organized around Tambo Square, and also how the women started fighting for brick houses, proper houses, and about that how this all came about and how you got involved from that moment onwards, after you had met?
Well, they'd obviously been fighting against apartheid for a long time before I came on the scene. And they'd lived in another area and were kind of forcefully removed from there by various factions, and went onto this piece of ground, small piece of ground called Tambo Square. When I came along, the community, you know, when you go into a community, you can't just do your own thing. There's a committee that's in charge, and you go to the committee and you ask permission to actually make friends in the community, because the committee protect the community. And so I'd asked permission to be there. And after making friends, and I'd been there maybe 5 months, when the committee told me that they'd been to the government, the mamas had gone, and there's a lovely photo of the mamas sitting at government. These women were so brave. They went to government, and you know, we're talking about a community where there's no money really, where you live hand to mouth, where even to go to the toilet is in a bucket system. So there's no dignity. Everybody knows you're going to the toilet, where there's one tap, cold water tap, and the mamas stand in a queue to get their water to do their washing, where there's no electricity, so it's candles or lamps. And these women were so determined to get housing, to house their children properly. So they went to government, and they got their way into Parliament of Cape Town, and they found the best room with the thickest carpet to go and sit in, and they took some of their children with them. Women took their babies and so on. The mind boggles, really, the price that these women paid for the sake of families to get proper housing. And they, of course, as soon as they go in, the security police come and say, we will take you to Pollsmoor prison, where Nelson Mandela also spent some of his time. And it's very dangerous. Oh my word, for these women. They put their lives at stake, really. And they said to eventually whoever came in from Parliament, we're not moving until you give us a piece of land. And they sat in this room for 1 week, 1 week. And people had to bring them food and so on, until they got this one piece of land, which is totally miraculous. And the guts of these women, one can't commend them more for the bravery. I still can't get over it, that they would put themselves at risk like that. But that is how determined they were to actually get decent housing for their family. So they got a piece of land, and the government put in tarred roads. So it's just a piece of blank land and tarred roads put in. And the government said, okay, now bring your shacks over and squat, as it's called, on this new piece of land. And the community, the women said, no way. We want our children to grow up decently. We want brick houses. And the government said, there's no money for brick houses. No way. We've given you the land. Now move your shacks. And you'd think that it was a much bigger piece of land with tarred roads put in. You would think that the women would say, well, let's go and we'll have a bigger piece of land and we can spread out and make our shacks bigger. But they were determined to get brick houses. Along comes me. And one day, being a pastor, I spoke about the Bible, I spoke about Jesus and so on. And one day they said to me, well, you know, it's all very well for you to come and tell us all about the Bible, but surely we need to live decently. So if your God is as big as what he says he is, give us each a brick house. Tell him to give us a brick house. And that is where I actually got involved. And I mean, I don't know anything about brick houses or fundraising or money. We're talking millions of South African rands. And as a church, we had no finance, and I didn't have personal finance. And so just together as a housing committee, they put me on the committee, the only umlungu, the only white person on the committee, which was such an honor, being one of the oppressors, really, to be given this privilege. And together we had a lawyer, and we learned how to do things properly, in that we had auditors, we had everything in place, but no money. And I'd made a fundraising booklet, and somehow I knew that we wouldn't get money because people don't easily give money into, well, we're going to move people from shacks into houses. But various friends started putting money into a kind of, into the bank account. And slowly, slowly, we had a good chunk of money. And then the committee, not me, I as a white person, I didn't get involved in, we sat and we planned, but then I played low key because it was for the community to win, not me as a white person. And often when we went to government, we had lots of trouble. I'm skimming over the other sit-ins we did and so on. But when we went into anywhere where there's government or anything, they would address me because I'm white. Immediately, they would look to me, and I would say, no, don't look to me. This is who you must speak to. And so it's a whole retraining of white people's minds of how to speak with dignity to Black people, instead of thinking white people are the clever, superior ones. And so this committee went to government, and they said, well, we've got so much money, we've got everything in place. We've got a lawyer, we've got a bank, we've got an auditor, we've got everything. How much money are you going to give us? And the government was so surprised to find a community that had got everything together like this, that they gave us, I think it was 21 million or something, just like that. But no, not just like that. There was a whole process. But that's how it began, really. And so the first house came after about 4 years of waiting. It wasn't a quick, easy thing. It cost a lot. And Mavis was there all the way, taking photographs. Now, for Mavis, I'm so sorry Mavis isn't on here yet, but one must understand that in Cape Town, you have load shedding, which means you get electricity for maybe 3 hours, and then for 4 hours it's off, and then 2 hours you may get it. And so life isn't the same as it is in the West. And so for Mavis, where she is, she won't have broadband. She won't have any, she would be on her phone with data, which is very, very expensive. So I understand the difficulty for Mavis to get on this call, but I'm still sad that she's not on yet and hoping she will be able to make her way on. Yeah, I think I've said enough. Marie, anything, can you take me further in what you want to know?
Yeah. I also just wanted to say that I'm still trying to get Mavis onto the call and trying to see if maybe she can just call in. We'll see. I hope we still get her on here. As I said, I spoke with her previously and there it worked. So let's see. And Angela, for now, I wanted to ask if you could tell us a bit more about the houses. So what kind of houses did the women get? Was that yeah, how can we imagine this?
Okay, so it was called starter houses. So quite small, you know, a kind of 50 square meters or something, or 70 square meters, very small, but it had the lounge, bedroom and kitchens all in one, and a separate bathroom. But to have a brick house with running water inside and electricity is like, was such a big deal. You must understand also, because the white, the black government had taken over, white people were still handing over, were in charge, so life was difficult. So all they had was this piece of ground and a map. That's what we were given. And each person's site or piece of land marked out. And we were told that before we could build any houses, we would need to find the water point. Now, it had been, they'd got the land in about 1990 or something. And this was about 93, 94. So the wind had blown sand over the pipes. So we asked the government for help to find the water pipe so we could mark it and get the builders to put their, whatever they do. And they refused. So we women with our hands had to dig in each corner of the plots, deep in to find, it was so undignified, so cruel, to find the water points. And we didn't know which of the four corners had the water points. It was so tough. And eventually, once we had done it for about 10 houses, then the government came along and said, okay, we'll give you a map of where the water actually is. So every single area of the housing was hard won. Awful. It wasn't just, well, here comes the money, we got a builder. Even to get the builders, we had a lot of scam artists come in who thought they would be easy pickings and they would promise us the earth. We went to meeting after meeting with builders and none of us knew much about anything. And eventually we got a good one who could build what we felt built well. So they were called starter houses. And then as people felt they had the money, they could make them bigger. But the important thing is that it had running water and a flush toilet inside the bathroom and a bath and so on, instead of in Tambo Square, they would boil water on a fire, to wash. So every morning you go and everybody's washing and everybody was spotlessly clean. And yet it was from a dish of water, there was not baths. So just the story, when we went to see the first house that was built, people stood in a long queue. Now, so Tambo Square's on one piece of land, and Tambo Village, it was called, the new village where the land is just a little distance away. So we got a truck, we hired a truck to bring people over to come and have a look. And they stood in a queue outside the first house. I thought they would want to be fascinated by the bricks and all that. At last, we've got our brick house that we've been waiting for 100 years. And one old man was 90 years old when he moved from his shack into his house for the first time. And I thought that was a brick house that would be fascinating. But you know, they stood in a queue and each one went into the bathroom to the toilet. And then we could hear the flush and washing hands at the sink and then come out and everybody would clap. And then the next one went in and was the same. The applause and the joy was to have an inside toilet. Well, I had to go and walk away and just weep because the toilet in my house that I took for granted was this wonderful giving dignity to people of having their own toilet, you know, and then you realize you know nothing about suffering of people until this actually happens. And the houses, as people got money, they made them bigger. If you go there now, there's some bigger. Some have built a little shack behind their house now to house their family if they can't afford to make it bigger. But it was a start. And the whole thing is, each person got their title deed. So every single person in Tambo Village has got a title deed to their house. They own it. And it's quite a big piece of land to either spread on or make a garden or whatever. And so it was a real breakthrough. And the first time in what we call the Western Cape, where a community of people had won the right to move from shacks into houses on their own accord. So very marvelous and well done to that community. And all those mamas, all those women, and then also the men who fought for this and won.
Thank you so much, Angela, for giving more insights into the struggle. I now have Mavis Mtandeki on the phone. I hope you can hear her. Please let me know. I've just called her now. Mavis, you're on loudspeaker now. Please, also in the audience, let me know if you can hear Mavis Mtandeki speak. We already talked briefly with Angela about the houses, about the history of Tambo Village. And maybe, I don't know if you want to start or if I shall ask you a more concrete question. We were only speaking about everything very briefly. And so maybe you can tell us a bit more about the struggle and about how the history of the Tambo Village Women came about.
Mm-hmm. The history of the Tambo Village, Angela is what to say, and we are aware how, we're looking in our families and all that stuff, but on the middle of enemy, then Angela, they were just playing next to the kids where we were. But they just really get on that. Also, we had looked at the house was just area and was talking where we're staying in Tambo church. But anyway, they were very busy to just also to include to go in the office, to go for the find and all that, you know. Yeah. So then also there were people not only working only for the town, but there were communities, you know. Yeah, so then is that the women on the Tambo, they were included, were about those, and you know, they were asking even the Section 29, they were just there for us and all the time, you know, they were very busy. Yeah, they were very committed in the community. Whatever, what might happen, the churches and the organization, all that, they were very busy with us. They were just organizing and everything. We just go everywhere, whatever. But until we just got that, we've got the housing through them. Also, they help us as a community. Yeah, it's there where now we are on that houses because of those they were getting to help us so much there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can tell us a bit about the community as it stands today, because you're still living in your house. Maybe to all the people who don't know much about Tambo Village, can you tell us a bit about Tambo Village? Who's living there? What's the community like?
Yeah, the community now, they've got a house because we're just doing a city. We just went to go to say we need a land. And then also we were committed to just really like to just talk with Mandela when it was in the jail. And then we said we want the land. And then it's where we're sitting in Goodwood. So then it's where we have the houses within a community. Also, they will sit in, and then we've got that land. Through that, we're sitting in Goodwood. Yeah, but we're still connected in the community, you know, as Angela was said. Because of, you know, we're fighting off that all that today, you know, we're on a bad situation of, you know, oppressors, you know, because it was a struggle. Yeah, but actually the women, they were very strong to stand for their rights, you know, to fighting for their houses, you know. But I mean, end of the day, we have the houses now. We're sitting in our houses because of this. The churches, they will help us, they will do everything. Yeah. I don't know what can I add to what Angela was saying. If you say something about that house now, I mean where we are now. Yeah. Okay.
Angela, do you want to ask Mavis a question or say something about this? I hope in the audience, please let us know if you can hear Mavis Mtandeki okay. I hope it works like this, just so that we can have this conversation in some form.
Mm-hmm. What do you want to edit? Yeah. Mary.
Hello, Mavis.
Hello. Hello, Angela.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, and you?
I'm good. It's nice to hear your voice.
Yes. Okay.
Are you sitting in your house?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hello, Angela.
Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I'm getting you. Yeah. Hello, Angela.
How are you? How are you? Are you happy? Are you happy where you are?
Yes, I'm happy where I am. I'm late because of you guys. You were just here. Hands on contact.
Oh, Mavis, you coming and going. The phone kind of dies a bit.
Say it again, Angela. I'm listening to you.
Mavis, are you still taking photos?
Pardon?
Are you still taking photographs?
I'm still taking photographs, yeah.
And where are you taking the photographs now?
Mhm. You know, this one, it's like with trouble, you know.
Yeah, there's a struggle with the connection.
Yes, I'm tracking really. Yes, I'm taking photographs, and then I'm really, I love that. And yeah, I want to look forward to do that more, you know, more photographing. Because I was just to wait for me only. I was just looking and you not check forward and to do, turn on to do, you know. Join up, you know, the community, and other things. Into the school. Listen. You hear me, Angela?
I can hear bits of what you're saying, and I'm trying to put the words together to see what you're saying. Yeah.
I would also have a question, Mavis, about how the people, do a lot of people still remember the history of Tambo Village, the people who still live there?
What they do?
If they do remember the history of Tambo Village, the community and the women.
They will just work for that. And I
We can hear you very bad, Mavis? I think you're gone now. Okay, Angela, I'm trying to maybe get her on the phone once more, also to see if there are any questions in the chat. And I also wanted to ask you, and maybe that's also something that other people are interested in, whether you're still in touch with the Tambo Village community, and yeah, what happened afterwards, and also maybe we can talk briefly about how this came about. So also about how we met, and yeah, the kind of works that went into this. If you could tell a bit about this, and I'll try briefly to see if we can get Mavis again on the phone.
Well, it was so good to hear her voice, even though it comes and goes like that. And I appreciate how hard she's trying. If you're not in Cape Town and in the area, you don't understand how difficult that call for Mavis actually is to make. So it is wonderful that she's able to do it. Yes, I am still in touch with people in Tambo, and we've got a church building there, and the church is called Kanisa Community Church. And one of the pastors, Jonathan, I see him on this call, one of the pastors of Kanisa, who is there because he just loves Mavis so much. There's a few of the pastors, but Jonathan was able to come online now. And yeah, things are prospering there. It's not always easy in Tambo Village. Life is hard. There's not always money available or electricity and the things that are taken for granted. But it's winter in Cape Town now, and I know everybody thinks Africa is hot, but in Cape Town you have 3 months of cold, and so people in the townships are cold, and so to be in a brick house is it just is different and just elevates people, and this book, there's Mama Mavis, that is who you heard on the phone, our beautiful friend. And this book, you know, people have often asked me to write a book on my, because I've got quite a history in the struggle against apartheid, but I've waited for many years because I feel that a white person shouldn't, you know, yeah, I go and write about my story on how I went to the township. So the oppressor gets the glory for going to help people, whereas the people themselves, how can I get glory for the suffering of other people on their backs? So I've waited until a Black person has a book, and I've waited 20 years, 25 years for a book to be written. And out of the blue, I got this email that was, I'm on the staff of City Church Cambridge here in the UK at the moment. And they sent an email, redirected an email to me from some random woman in Germany to say, I've been to Cape Town and I've met Mavis Mtandeki, and I see she's this wonderful photographer, which she is. She's won awards for her photography. And I would like to do a book on her photography. And so I asked Mavis if I can do the book. Mavis said yes. And then she told me about the houses. And then I said, can I write about the houses? What is the history? And Mavis said, well, Mama Angela has the history. And that's why Marie was getting in touch with me out of the blue about a book. And so we've been on Zoom, and it just so, and I've got the whole history of the Tambo housing because I was so involved in it. And I brought it with me from South Africa. It's very precious to me. And so Marie happened to be coming to Cambridge because her husband got his PhD at Cambridge University, and it was during lockdown, so he couldn't be kept and gowned, you know. And so last year in July, Marie happened to come with her husband to Cambridge to be with him as he was kept and gowned. And I live here. You can just see what we call the fingerprints of God all over this. So we met in one of the shopping areas, and I showed her all the information I have. And we found some place where it could be copied at a high level, high enough for a book. And out came the book. And so what has happened is now I can actually start writing, because my good friend Mama Mavis Mtandeki has a book before me as a white person can be involved. So I'm very chuffed at the way this has worked out. And so somebody has put on Marie on the chats, can we see some of Mavis's work? Are you able to do that?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a brief, also have a brief explanation from my side, because I just came to Mavis's photographs through my PhD in history of art. And this whole idea for this book was entirely Mavis Mtandeki's idea, because when I approached her saying, I want to do this research, she also told me that she wants to do this book. And I had never done any book publication before, so I was very cautious in saying I don't know how to get the funds, I don't know how to go about this entire project, and I'm so glad this all worked out, and all the material that Angela allowed us to photocopy and also to give people who have no clue a bit of an idea about what was happening at the time, I think is so important in contextualizing Mavis Mtandeki's photographs. And I think Ash has already put on the chat a link to the exhibition, which can also be visited online. And there you can zoom really into all of the works, so you get a really good impression. There's also a slideshow with Mavis Mtandeki's work. There are 10 large prints. And so I invite you to also invite all of your friends to go and see the exhibition in New York City, but also by clicking through the Matterport, you get a really good sense about the exhibition and also a good insight into some of Mavis Mtandeki's photographs. Yeah. I'm still trying to get Mavis on the phone once more, but also if you have any other questions, as we said, just post them in the chat. And we're happy to answer them.
Hi. I had a question for Angela that I just wanted to ask, and I wanted to thank you both for just a really intriguing conversation, because the photographs are beautiful and beautiful for lack of better words, right? They give you a sense of the time and of being there. But I wanted to ask Angela, because you mentioned being there with the women as they fought for housing and in some aspect showing others that Black women should be spoken to with a sense of dignity, right? And I wanted to ask maybe your experience with being an ally there and how that was helpful. And I know Mavis also mentioned like the women were really involved and working hard and working on the ground and getting it done. So I just wanted to ask you, was it helpful for them to have an ally, and how was that experience for you?
Well, it was a win-win situation. They won houses and I won, number one, friends. We just love each other. And the people in the townships and Mavis and that committee taught me so much, because I, as a white person with, with whole apartheid mindset, but it's not only about apartheid, it's throughout the world, there's racism. And I had no idea when I went into the township how I came across my superior attitude and so on. And eventually, when people had accepted me, I sat down with people and said, how do I come across to you? And I thought they would say, well, Angela, you are so brave because you could land up in jail for breaking the government laws and so on and so on. And they didn't. They said, well, Mama, you act like you own the place when you come. And I thought, whoa, as a white person, the only one there among thousands of Black people, I thought I was very humble. But it's just that we don't even, as white people, we don't even realize it's there, this attitude. And they said, when you come in, you're so loud and noisy. And then when you knock on the door, you knock, boom, 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 like a policeman's knock. And I said, but how should I knock? And then they showed me how to knock down here. And things like, and then you come in and you just sit down on our furniture. We didn't even invite you to sit down. And I then said, please, will you teach me? Can I ask you? And every week I asked, how did I come across here? And how was I bossy there? And so I worked in the township for 20 years, and I can really say people of the township, Black people, shaped me and made me who I am. It wasn't me as this glorious white person going in to help with housing. It was, teaching me how to know you see, white people don't, black people, you know that you're black. And brown people know they're brown. But white people don't know they're white. We don't even think of color. And I had to realize that I'm white. It's a color, and with my whiteness goes an attitude. And every day I know I'm white, and I still work at the no. I can't just take the world for granted because I'm white. I walk through airports and I never get stopped, and that kind of thing. And so it was a win-win. We won against the white government, and the mamas and also the tatas, the men, won the housing. And so I must say I worked very, 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 very hard and not knowing what I was doing, but we won. But they made me. It shaped me to be able to serve all over the world now, cross-culturally, and understand people and not be the superior know-it-all. And so that's what I gained. I just gained, for me, more than what I put into my friends in the townships. Does that answer you?
Thank you. Yes,
Maybe
that did.
Okay.
now can you see everyone? We have Mavis once more on a, no, we had Mavis briefly on a video call. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now she's back again.
Hello. Hello.
Now we can all hear and see you, Mavis.
Hi, Andrew. Hello.
There you are. Hello, Mavis.
Yes, guys.
Yeah. So tell us how you're doing, Mavis.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Marie asked Mavis a question because you are right there.
Mavis, can you briefly tell us a bit more about the cover photograph, how this came about? Now while you're here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you maybe tell us a bit about the cover photograph that is on the book? How that came about?
She's gone. Ah, there we are. Mavis.
No, I don't think it's stable enough. I'm very sorry. I would have hoped to have this working out and to have this conversation mostly between you and Mavis.
I know.
Yeah, but I think it also gives a very realistic view into how hard it can be to communicate between, be it Germany, South Africa, the UK at times, because we really tried with sending data, getting everything with Zoom set up in advance, and now still it didn't work. And I think also, I think Mavis Mtandeki was very excited to be able to speak here as well. And so I'm really glad that we have her work included in the exhibition, that we were able to show a video at the curatorial tour of hers, so that you really get a sense and get her to speak about her own work and not only get other people to speak about her work, which I think, it's very important.
But you know, Marie, for people to understand that Mavis, coming from a shack with not much education, as it were, and so on, to actually go on a course for a year for women, Black women, to do a photography course, it's crazy. It was unheard of, really. But her desire and her artistic bent, really, took her on this course. And I remember seeing Mavis with a camera. Wherever we went, Mavis had her camera. And it just made, this Black woman and a camera, it was just so new. People weren't used to this at all. But when we looked again, Mavis's photographs were being shown at the University of the Western Cape, up on displays. And I thought, this is our Mama Mavis, she's in a house now, but she came from a shack. And while at the shack, in a shack, she did this course and was able to break through to the point that a book could be done about her work. I don't know if people can really understand how this blows my mind. And I think it will blow Jonathan's mind. And the people of Tambo Village, it blows their mind that our Mama Mavis, who in the world's terms would be called a nobody, is actually a big somebody. And so I really want to honor Mama Mavis today and all she has done, this beautiful, beautiful woman, and how she has tried to get online. And I want to honor you, Marie, for taking this up and being the answer, even for me to be able to write now, and how you even found me at Cambridge Church, I don't know. But it's like, I'm astounded how you have written something. You in Germany, Mavis is in Cape Town, and I'm at the moment in Cambridge, and somehow we worked something out to present this wonderful book, The Pride and Joy of Mavis Mtandeki. I'm very, very grateful to you, but also to God for doing things like this.
Yeah, thank you. I think we also got a question about the book right now. The book is available online. I don't think it's available on Amazon. It's available through Lecturis, the publisher. We're also currently trying to get it in as many libraries as possible so that people can have access to this, and that the access is there for the future for anyone who's interested in this history, in Mavis Mtandeki's life and in her photographs. And I think we're now also coming to the end of this conversation. So if you have any other questions, please drop them in the chat. Thank you, Ash. I think she also just sent the link into the chat. I warmly invite you to have a look at the book. It's also on view in the exhibition space. So there are several copies where you can sit down. There's a table in the middle and go through if you haven't had enough with the slideshow and with the photographs on the walls of Mavis's work. I invite you to see the exhibition, have a look at the book. And I'm very, very happy to have had you here, Angela, with us. I'm also very glad we got Mavis on the phone, and I hope you got to hear a bit about her work. There is, as I said, in the curatorial tour from earlier this month, there is a video of Mavis Mtandeki speaking about this exhibition and about her works as well. So you do get her speaking about her photographs as well. And I think, is there anything else, Ariel, you want to add, or Angela, you want to add now towards the end?
No, I think that is it.
Also, before you go, Marie and Angela, because either of you might know best, there's a question about whether Mavis focused on photographing women. This is a question from Eva. Did Mavis Mtandeki focus on photographing women, or is the focus on women a selection specifically for this publication, for the Sites of Struggle book?
So, Angela, do you want to start?
Okay. Mavis photographs anything really. Her exhibitions she has wide exhibitions on anything, but her passion was for women and women in the struggle, because in life, the Black women in that time were the lowest. they were seen as the lowest. So Black women struggled so much to even lift their heads with dignity. And so Mavis felt she wants to take photos of these strong women. And, you know, there's a saying in South Africa, if you strike a woman, you strike a rock, because women are a rock in a community. And so Mavis wanted to display through her photos how women are the rock of the townships, of society. And in the townships, how it was the women struggling who actually helped break apartheid too, working with men. But I often worked with bunches of women who stood against rape and all kinds of things that was happening. And the women were so strong. And I think that's why Mavis wanted to give a side of the women, because she was passionate. She belonged to the African National Congress Women's League. And so she wanted to honor the women of the struggle. Hence, she took lots of photos, and hence the book is about the women in the struggle. But she does take photographs of men as well, and other situations.
Can I make a comment? Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Jonathan, I just want to say thank you so much. It's just been really quite amazing to hear this history again. I just kind of want to honor Mama Mavis. I just the other day found that we're both the same age. We're both 76. She's still going strong. She's a leader in our community, and we're so thankful for her. And thank you to Angela. And again, it's been such a privilege to be friends, make friends, relationships. So I've been here also 25 years, a bit later, came in a bit later than Angela, but it's been a privilege even now to work with Mama Mavis. She meets regularly with some people from our church. She uses her home. So it's really exciting to being with her and just being with her right now, and we age together. So thank you for opportunity. Thank you for doing this, Marie. It's been really amazing. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. We have one more event in conjunction with Defiant Visions. Again, that is on view at Apex Art until July 29th. And you can view the Matterport at apexart.org. And this was a really great and important conversation. So I want to thank you for being here, Angela, and thank you, Marie, for sharing what you know and for teaching us all something new. Until next time.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.